if you can connect emotions to your data, i.e., using storytelling by either a question or you're using a counter, then that data will start to dance and sing. The biggest mistake that people can make in having interviews is to sound that you are unsure of yourself. The simplest tool there is in the world to sound more confident is to avoid filler sounds.
Welcome to another episode of Customer Success Talks, Real Challenges, Experts Advice, the podcast dedicated to helping those transitioning into customer success and early career customer success managers. I'm your host, Byron Toruño. So today we will be focusing on what are the communication skills that we as customer success managers should start being aware of and start developing so we can improve on our communication. Then also, Alex, our guest today, will pinfall those common mistakes that we do as not only customer success, but also as human beings in our communication. Three, the power of storytelling that we have talked about this before. And today we will go ahead and hear Alex's perspective. And then there's something really interesting called the mixed angels and devils cocktail. So I'm really curious what Alex is going to bring today. So yes, I have been saying Alex, but I haven't introduced our guest today. Today we are talking with Alexander Grabner-Jarlung, and I hope I pronounced your last name correctly, my friend. Let
You
me
know
know.
what? It's fully acceptable and it's perfectly fine. You did it excelente. So that is great. Thank you so much for having me. The true pleasure is on my side to be able to share my insights and thoughts here of the communicational aspect in customer success management. There's a lot of C's and S there, so it's a little tongue twister. So
I
yeah,
know it has been taking me a while to move from
yeah.
customer success to but I get you. You know, one of your goals, Alex, is to share your knowledge of public speaking with the world. So, can
Mm.
you give a little bit of your background? Who are you? How this passion started?
Yeah, of course. The It started. I want to take you back around 15 years ago. So I was sitting in a big corporate industry and working with networks, cell phone networks in Scandinavia. And I was having a bunch of presentations. I was out there. I was talking to customers, like more into the retail section of customers. So already back then, I was in somewhat of a customer success management position, even if I didn't know it back then. There was a different title to it. But I was one day sitting there and I was watching a TV show and I was doing a PowerPoint presentation at the same time. When I all of a sudden hear this gentleman speak the words of saying, and with that, I want to welcome you to How to Avoid Death by PowerPoint. Instantaneously, I got mesmerized in what that person was focusing on and telling me because it really just flipped my entire world into a 180-degree turn. So I reached out to him, very awkward conversation we had, but it turned out to that person was no other than the man now known to the world as David JP Phillips. For the one who doesn't know who he is a communicational guru when it comes to delivering and discovering the magical science of storytelling, the 110 steps of excellent communication, how to avoid death by PowerPoint, and also what is the angels and devils cocktail. So he's getting world renown out there now with his TED Talks and has been since pretty much the last around 11 years. But anyway, back then, I had no idea what I was doing. I had a conversation with him. I ordered him, or I booked him, not ordered him, but I booked him to come to my company, to our company, and
Yeah.
have a skill set session. And he did for 2 days. And it was such a great thing. And I was just mind blown. So I kept on talking to him, kept in touch, took all classes and courses. And it turned out 4 years later that even if I had looked upon him as my superstar and hero in communication, he had also looked at me as a potential candidate of being his co team worker, like being like doing this in as a team, as a partnership. So he reached out after 4 years in the smallest airport there is in the world, in Scandinavia, in Sweden, in south of Sweden, where I was born and raised. And he just popped the question, said, Alex, you know what? I truly believe the time is now. And since then, that was exactly 11 years ago. and 3 months, I just embarked on that. I quit my day job and I just did this and I never looked back. So I fully devoted myself, dedicated myself into everything from that aspect that this is the way that communication should be like. And the twist here comes in when people are asking me, but Alex, this is just like there's a bunch of people that does this. Yes, there is. But how many of them have the aspect of the neurology and biology and just psychology behind communication? There's very few. So that is what David has embarked on, that everything that we're doing, everything that we educate in and teach, it's not based on I have a good idea. It's based on science and it's proven and backed by research. So that is me. That is who I am. And now I'm currently traveling all over the place, having digital meetings like this all over the globe. So I feel like this nomad of public speaking because it's been more lately of virtual virtual lectures than has been on physical stages. So yeah, that's me. I don't know. I just ranted on. I don't know if you found that of good value,
Well,
but
I will just cut 50% of what you said to save time, but that's okay.
that's like let's just just keep on going. Yeah. All
No,
right. So
I'm
that is
totally
that is
kidding.
me.
Uh,
That is me. So
Yeah, no, perfect. Thank you. I think it's super interesting that you had the opportunity to work since the beginning as well, or at least the early stage with David. And by the way, everyone listening and seeing us on YouTube, if you go to the description, you will see the link to go to David's JP Phillips website where you will find all the courses available, all the programs, the schedules there. So you can as well take advantage of how to improve your communication skills. Alex, based on your experience, I'm really curious to hear which are the most common mistakes that people we do when it comes to communication, focusing basically mostly on the business side, because yes, we want to have chit chats with our customers to start warming up everything, to
yeah.
feel how they are and how they're doing. But also when it comes to those meetings, what are the common mistakes that you see we are doing? Like, can you highlight them so I don't want to do them
Yeah.
again?
The I would highly say this that the first thing that you just said is one of the biggest mistakes. And that is to see out of the business perspective that you are a certain individual in the business rounds, but when you're in the private, you're something else. The second
Ah,
you the second you differentiate these two, you put on either a role when you're at home or you put on a role when you're at work. What if we can just balance these things out? And I'm not talking about your personality. I'm not talking about your persona. We're talking about the skill sets, right? So for instance, I said the body language is one of the key factors that we have to understand, becoming more aware of what we do using functional gestures and such. So if you would stop putting that pivot that this is your personal version of you. You're all goofy and you're using all the gestures when you're sharing things with your friends. Like, oh, did you see that over there? You just like exploded. And then when you come to the business round, it's like, did you see that thing over there? It exploded. See, the second you do that, that is when you lose out on things. And that is what a lot of people have, as my experience at least can show and say, is that when you stop doing that differentiation of personal business and just balance it out instead so that the pivot is even, then you don't put on anything. You're not taking, you don't need to take off anything. You don't need to put on anything. That means that you are always going to be true. So that little chitter chatter that you have prior to your presentation, the way that you do that chitter chatter, your presentation should keep on doing on the on the nonverbal aspect.
mhm,
Meaning that if you and I see this in my world is a business scenario because we're having a podcast, you and I together, but
mhm.
I see it in my own head as if I would talk to my wife or when if my best friend would roll in, I would speak in the same way because then I don't have to turn off any switch. It is the same communication every single time. Because when you have a discussion with your spouse, your friend that is of importance, you use the lingo, you use the nonverbal cues, you use facial expression that represents that seriousness.
And also the tone of voice.
Exactly. When you go into a business scenario, when there's serious matters that needs to be discussed, can be numbers, can be, you're talking about churn, you're talking about customers, you're talking about situations that have aroused that you need to handle, you will speak and address that with the right words again. You see, if you don't put that on and off switch, then
Mm.
you don't have to change anything. You're just going to optimize yourself into every situation, becoming more situation aware of, okay, serious matter, more fun. Serious
Mm.
matter, more fun. More relaxed, more serious. Depends on the situation and topic, of course, that you want to convey and transmit to someone else.
And
Yeah,
for me, authenticity also comes into play here because it's like having that balance that you're saying in the be aware of where you are, which allows you to also to think about, okay, the tone of voice, the type of jokes,
yeah,
the expressions, right? But then you also want to be authentic. And I think
yeah,
authentic, I see it as, for example, how am I when I'm not working? How am I
yeah.
when I'm in home? But then how am I as well when I'm in work? And then that part between when you're at home and when you're working or with people, that middle part is the part that you're not being authentic.
It's about balance. And
Mm,
when me and David, we have started doing these reaction videos on YouTube where we react to big influential
yeah.
people. And
You have one about Donald Trump, right?
we
The
do we did
elections.
have
Yeah.
about Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, both the vice
Yeah.
president and the now elected president. We did that, but we have also had on we say, how should I say this? People of influence in different areas. And what we do
Mm-hmm.
then is so you were talking about authenticity and synchronicity,
Mm-hmm.
and I was saying that in the beginning as well. And when we do these analysis, one of the people who score the highest, because we can for the first time in history, we can grade people, we can rate people of from 0 to 110 points, how well they perform in their skill sets of communicating. And the people who get the higher points are always the one that are truly present and authentic, and the ones that are really in depth with their synchronicity. So both skill 107 and 108, when they're in cahoots with each other and working, they are the ones that you can see that, hey, I'm personal. This is the way that I am. I don't put on an act. I'm this is who I am. Whether you like it or not, this is who I will show that I am towards you. And it's so great. And David always goes like, did you see that? I'm like, I saw it. So it was present and authentic. We're like, yeah, it was present and authentic. Did you see how great that was? And like, yeah, it is. So even if you look at all the other 108 skills that we have, if you score, if you are true to yourself, who you are, communicate, and this is again, doesn't matter if you're in customer success management part, junior, senior, or you're just a normal human being. We're all just communicating. So I've I'm going to be brutally honest and go with that. I stopped caring a couple of years back of trying to be something that I wasn't on stage,
Mm,
and because I wanted to please everybody. And this comes back to my childhood, and we don't have to go down that lane this time, but it's I stopped caring what people thought about me, and that made me realize that some people like what I do and the way that I do it. Some people don't do it, but it's fine. That is not my. That is not. It's okay. You don't have to be loved by everyone. So when I did that, my authenticity and my synchronicity in everything that I do, just from my own perspective, skyrocketed. I
mm.
felt so feng shui with myself, my mindset. It was amazing. It was great. So, second tip of the day, really just be present and authentic.
Be present. Oof.
Be present. Yeah.
That's a big word.
It is a big
It is
word.
a big word. What are the common mistakes that you have seen people in interviews doing wrong when it comes to the communication skills?
Ask me a question.
Ah,
Ask me a
what
question. Ask me any question.
mm, who are you?
Um uh, okay, so my name is Alexander. I've been working for around 11 years as in communication, and I think I can benefit. You can benefit. See, this is the
Yeah, I
biggest
see.
mistake that I just made. And if you didn't catch this, just pause, rewind, and watch it again. So hear me out. This is what the biggest mistake when it comes to interviews is. That what is an interview usually? It's a big try for us to have a chit chat conversation, but You said it before that the mind, like the presentness, being present in an interview is normally extremely hard because you think about, okay, what is it that person's going to ask me? Step one. Number two, what is it I want to convey? What is it I want to say? Step three, oh, I need to good put it in a good
There's
word
too
and I need to make
much.
use.
Poof.
Leading to the biggest mistake that people can make in having interviews is to sound that you are unsure of yourself. The simplest tool there is in the world to sound more confident is to avoid. So if you recall the first thing I said, ask me a question, you asked me a question, the first thing that came out of my mouth was filler sound, skill number 25 out of the 110 steps. One of my favorites because the reason is that 99 point, I would say 3 or 4%, 99.4% of everybody I coached in my entire livelihood doing this thing has been filler sounds. It's the top of the list.
Indeed.
What happens with filler sounds? The more times you have them, step number one, it decreases the value of what you said prior and what you're going to say. Step number two, which is even more scary, is that it takes away the attention of what you are saying. That means that it's literally in an interview taking away the attention of you. You would, if you could crawl into the interviewer's like mind and brain, you would probably see that little version sitting there going, I am not going to focus on what you're saying. I'm waiting for the next filler sound.
Boop.
There was, oops, there was again. Oops, there was again. Oh, the anticipation. Oh, there is again. So, yeah, biggest mistake using filler sounds in your communication. And it's not only interviews, but you mentioned interviews as one of those key components.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing, implementation and the lack of strategic pausation.
We are not comfortable when it comes to pausing. It's
Silence
just
will kill
uncomfortable.
you.
Mm-hmm.
It will kill you. There will be a big saber tooth jumping out of, I don't know, a drawer or something and attack you because you're quiet. So no, it's yeah, using strategic pausation, like the lack of using strategic pausations, because we need time to reflect, you and I. So if you would ask me a question and I would answer that question, if I go and rant on for 5 minutes on that question, and then I'm not allowing you to reflect on what I said, because the brain needs the time to, is this relevant for me? How relevant is it? And also, do I need to memorize what the person is saying? And we just want people to reflect, but it also gives you time to strategize what it is that you want to say the next. So I would say filler sounds using or lacking using the pulsations, but finally on the body language part, because I said that body language is a key component, is to use matching facial expression. So that would be skill number 77 now, the 110 steps. So the matching facial expression would be to match your entire face with the expressions that you're sharing with the emotions that you're sharing with the ones that are interviewing you or the audience in that sense. So those things would be my three things that would just just don't do the filler sounds. Just avoid them. And it's easy for me
but,
to say, but it
it,
is
but there's where it comes the dependency or the connection between the feel sounds and also the pausing.
yeah.
Like we are uncomfortable of just take 2 seconds and think versus um, because this almost doesn't even help. But I think that it also comes with preparation. If you are prepared before and you are prepared, you have your notes, you have done a research. I think that it removes some pressure of you now being able to focus on these small things that can make a difference. And Alex, by the way, it's just impossible not to hyper focus on this when I'm talking to you.
On which one, the pausing or the filler sounds are using using facial expression?
Or the 110.
Alex is grading me right now. Yeah, no. The thing, the cool thing is there. Of course, we want to give the listeners a little bit of advice as well, and this is where the angels and devil's cocktail come in. But we'll talk about that a little bit later down the road, or even in a next episode. We'll see
Yeah.
how that goes. But the filler sounds, it's not your fault that the filler sounds are there. There's several different reasons. It might be that you have You have too much cortisol in your bloodstream. You're being nervous. You're stressed out. That
Mm,
triggers the adrenaline part. It can
mm.
be that you're translating from one language to another, like from Swedish to English or English to Spanish or Spanish to German. It takes time, process. But and it can also be that you're just thinking about what you want to say, what words you want to say, what you want to implement, or it can be that you're scared of just that silence. But the second you overcome this, people will look at you differently. They will look at you going like, have there hmm, there's something
Like
that
that's the smart guy of the room.
yeah, exactly. All of a sudden, we're like, that made sense. You have to remember when you're in an interview session, your sole focus, everything that you do, and it doesn't. Sorry, not only in interviews, but every time when you address somebody else, you have to listen to the words of the anticipation of reward. That is the only thing that drives the counterpart. That is the only thing that drives them. The anticipation of reward. They want to be rewarded of some sort on a hormonal level. They want to get like that is what dopamine is giving you. Like that is
Mm.
somebody's like, oh, if you can give me dopamine, I will give you my entire focus, my motivation towards you, my creativity towards you, and I will memorize you. So when you're saying something, think about how can I give that person any form of reward. So if it's a question, do your research before. Go into that. You probably heard this it's a thousands times before. Go down the ladder of mind map what potential questions can come.
Yeah. And
Just
write them down.
and write them down because then you are prepared. It's like you're going down into your little indexation of, oh, this is the question. The classical, what are the three greatest strengths and weaknesses that you have?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
still that
I,
question in
I know, like
2025.
I know. It's so 1980s, but still, it's existing. It is existing. Yeah. So that this just ground setting, avoid filler sounds, implement more pulsations, and use facial expression.
Storytelling. We
Yes.
talk a lot about storytelling and
Yes.
we like stories. And a
We
lot of,
love them.
yeah, like cultures, people like to read. It's your dad, your mom maybe sits down next to you and reads you a book. But there's a lot behind storytelling. And I want to focus on two aspects of this.
Yeah.
One is how can customer success manager use storytelling to improve their communication, but then how we can use this storytelling to transform data into a nice, understandable way for the customers.
Yep. Okay, we'll go with the first question first,
Go
and
for
then
it.
we'll jump into the second one. So what we have created is you said it perfectly fine. Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. We love stories. The storytelling, we depend on them. Our life exists due to the stories. Storytelling has been around us since around 250,000 years. If we look at the ancient ways that we have found ways of communication,
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. And around 27,000 years ago, we started drawing things on walls, and we have communicated through text for the last 3,500 years. But then we came back to around 20, no, it's more than, it's more than 30 years now when we have started just focusing on sharing stories through the beautiful tool of PowerPoint. But the thing is, stories are what drives people to listen to you, to care for
Mm.
you, to care for your product, to care for who you are, and to find the respect that you want in for your company, for the business, for the name, for the brand, and the service that you provide. So
That's
what
what
we
we
have
all want.
created, sorry.
That's what we all want.
Exactly. So what we have done is what is beneficial usage of stories when it comes to implement that in your customer success journey for either the customer or you being a manager or just working with customers. And it's called the ABCDO of storytelling. So the ABCDO of storytelling is way where you can because a story is I'm going to go on a limb here is without a doubt the best answers to the majority of questions. Majority, not all of them, but the majority of questions. So that means that in different situations, you can rely on using the ABCDO. And it's a way for you that A stands for answer. That means if somebody's giving you a question, you answer that with a story. What do you do for a living? What does your company do? Don't
Mm.
say, well, we're in this and this, and this is the service that we provide. Go back, share a little story about the history of the company, just a brief one. You can find these tiny stories, and a story can be, I mean, it can be one sentence, it can be 5 sentences, it can be 15 minutes, it can be 2 minutes, it can be 60 seconds. It doesn't matter, but share a little bit of insight when somebody asks you a question and give them that story instead. So, the company's history, the product's history, service, what kind of what kind of help the service provides, whatever it can be, but just don't say it, share it with a story instead.
Mhm.
The second would be is using the B, and that is bouncing. When you have somebody
Bounce.
that is really reluctant on not giving up on a specific thing, you can always bounce off the focus with a story. For example, I had one of my sales reps back in the day. He had this client who called up and said, "Hey, we want to book a train with you guys, but we have to promise that you cure all of the stage fright from everybody who's participating in that session." And we said, "Hey, you know what? We can't promise that. No, but we want to hire you, but you have to promise." And the client was so focused on solving that situation, that issue with everybody should have no stage fright when they were done. And we can't. It's a long process in some cases. It's very individual. And then my sales rep, he just went like in on that Zoom call, and he just went like, you know what? Fine. All right. As long as they don't put a microphone in the air, I think we have this covered.
What?
And the client, exactly. The client reacted just like you said. What do you mean with that? Automatically, my sales rep pulled the focus on that it's like solving that issue with everybody with the stage fright into talking about a story where he was standing in front of hundreds of people and shoved this little lavalier microphone in his ear because he thought it was an earpiece and not a mic. So he shifted the focus. So he bounced off the focus from one end to another. So that is something that can be very beneficial when somebody's so reluctant on giving up. Just see if you can bounce it off, and that is when a story can really help you out with that. The C stands for counters. That is if somebody's arguing with you, and you can always counter with a story that can say, "But you know what? Do you have any previous experience with this? I'm so happy that you asked that question." So just a couple of months ago, I had this client that is in the similar situation as you, blah, 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 and you keep on talking a story. So you can counter with a story when somebody is giving you that. It's a little similar to
Like
questions,
social
but
proof?
it can be yeah, exactly, like a social
Oh.
proof. The D stands for duo. If you're a team, you can always use this to implement a story in your communication when you're either talking to a client if you have that opportunity, but it has to be something that you practiced before.
Mm.
And a duo can be, get this. Say, for instance, that you sit here, you have a client in front of you, and you're going to discuss something, and it might be not sensitive, but it can be a little bit of a critical component. When you are done, and you have planned this, when you're almost done you're done with your presentation with the client, you go, "Okay, so by the way, this is going to be and then all of a sudden the counterpart, like the other person that is in your team, is going to interrupt you. It's like, "By the way, you should tell them about the situation we had. It can be relevant for them." And then you will go, "No, no, I don't think that's, I don't think, I don't think they want to know." Well, we can, okay, so do you see what would happen then if I would go like this? It's a
So
little dispute that
confusing.
you have between you and that person,
Mhm.
but it is a situation you want to bring that you had planned, a story that you know will be relevant for that customer,
Oh, so it's
but you
planned.
planned it without.
Ah.
Yeah, so that's why I said you have to practice the duo. It is a little bit of a hard one, but you can see it sometimes with myself and David on when we're doing either a podcast or where we're doing when we're doing a presentation or one of those reaction videos. You will see sometimes that we kind of, you know what, you should share. Not, yeah, you should. Nah, yeah, you should. Okay, and then we tell it because what happens with you is they go, "I want to figure out is that a secret? I want to know
Yeah.
what the secret
Ah,
is." Yeah.
curiosity.
Yes, curiosity. And that will not kill the cat in this case. It will just drive you to listen on more carefully. And then final one in when it comes to
Alex,
storytelling. Yeah.
let me pause here a second because then dual is something that you can apply when it comes to negotiation as well.
Yes. But when it comes again, in a case of negotiation, it has to have been practiced several times. And here
Mm.
is the thing. it cannot sound scripted. So the duo is, if you say that ABC is intermediate, you can do it not knowing too much about it, because you know an answer can be a story, a bouncer can be a story, and a counter can be a story. But the duo part, you have to have the next level. So you have to have the full understanding of what should the story be, what is the outcome, what is the structure of the story. So there's a couple of more phases than just going, hey, let's do the duo.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
have to
Okay, it's
plan it a
time
little
to
bit more.
act.
Yeah.
Mm,
The
and
um
oh,
the the final one is the O, and that is object. Make
mm,
sure that whenever you have a situation or something that where communication with a customer, with a client, with your team, surround yourself with objects. It can be on you, but that can lead to a story. For instance, if you and I would sit here and I would be talking about this, like presenter mastery, what is that? See, I'm using an object. So if your curiosity would be enough, you would say, Alex, can you describe what does PMEST 2022 stand for? So my cap would then be the my introduction of, oh, funny that you asked. So what is this is where we when we started our online program, blah 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 blah. So you can keep
mm.
on talking about that. So an object can be a very useful thing to have either as you're setting in the digital era, or you have something on you that can spark a conversation and a
How
story.
to start small talks too.
Yes. So if
Ah.
you're in a network situation, which I know you will be at several times in your life, it can be at a party, it can be in a formal setting, have things on you that can spark that little communication, that little small talk, and that little small talk can lead to something more. But make sure that it is a story that comes out of it.
Mhm.
Don't make the small talk about you. Make the small talk about the story that you want to share. Rather, if it's your service that you want to share with them, or a product that you have, or just what you do as a living, make it into a story instead of telling them who you are.
Because then it's gonna make the situation even more awkward if you don't have this story.
Yes, exactly. People are driven by stories. Share yours, and you will be more interesting in every situation if you know how to create the story. And that's where that I highly recommend you to go in and listen on David's TED talk on the magical science of storytelling.
Which will also be in the description
Yes,
of today's
which
episode.
will also be in the
Yeah.
description below. Yep, that is
Exactly.
yeah,
So A, answer; B, bouncing; C, counter; D, duo; and O, object. And if you want to
exactly.
go deeper into this, just go into the description and you will see
Yep,
all the content there. But then from these ones, one, two, three, four, five,
yep.
which are the ones that we can use for data? Should we use all of
A,
them or?
I would say A and C. So both A you can use for data, and C you can use for data. This is where the biggest misconception people have is that when we talk data, we talk logical, we talk information. But
Mhm.
everything that we know from the scientific proof is that no decisions has ever been made based on logic. They're based out of emotions that we have
Emotion.
towards it and instincts that we have in our nature. So these two things, the logic, it's just maybe it's giving us that little, you come over the hump of the decision, but the decision itself is based normally and driven, not based but driven by emotions and not logic, but instincts. Meaning, if you can connect emotions to your data, i.e., using storytelling
Mhm.
by either a question or you're using a counter, then that data will start to dance and sing. Automatically, you will have people who will start going, I like this chart. It makes sense. So instead of going, this is the result, this is the churn, this is the anti churn last month, this is what we're doing for the next, this is the, go and saying, all right, guys, I have some pretty big numbers running this today in my presentation. Some things will be surprising, some things will be predictable. But I want us to take us back to when Q1 started.
Mm.
Q1, you see the numbers right here. It wasn't a very good one, but we did some implementations, we did some changes. We even had, oh, there she is. Yeah, so Sarah, She came into the company and she made a huge difference, didn't you? Yeah, you did. Can you tell us what you did? Ah, you don't have to. I will tell it for you. And then I know you don't have to go that way. It was just a suggestion. I mean, you keep telling a story, so you go from A to B to C with the little drive of using storytelling. Like I said, a story can be one sentence, it can be five sentences, it can be 5 minutes and 10 minutes. It doesn't really matter, but start using again what I said before: the anticipation of reward.
Mm.
The anticipation of reward. Of course, there are other substances, signal substances, and hormones that you can implement, but to answer it was a long answer to a short question, but make data sing, share stories, use animations to enhance. If you're using a PowerPoint as an example, use animations in the right way, combine with the story, use examples, raise of hands. How many of you thought it was going to go this well this last quarter? Hands up.
The
Just
engagement.
that little, yes, engagement. So it's a combination of when you're asking like what should we use with data. Yes, storytelling is amazing, but storytelling needs to have sometimes, not always, but other components as well to make it as beautiful as it can be.
This is one of the challenges that I'm personally going through right now because data can be really intimidating.
Yeah.
And then it's not only about understanding it, it's also about presenting it. So what I'm working on now is my timeline looks like I'm gonna say ABC. In my case, I want my customer to use my product the best way possible. So we have optimization calls to optimize the product. And then at the end, I show the numbers. So what I try to do is that I back up the story that I presented at the beginning with the data. And this is why, based on these numbers, at the beginning I showed you this. That's
Yeah.
how I do it. I don't know if it's right or wrong. I'm trying to find kind of that style, but it is indeed presenting data because the last thing we want to do is we want to avoid data paralysis on both.
Yeah, that is true. The because I'm such a good lip reader, my headphones just went powering off, and I was looking at your lips at the same time, so I had to put on the extension cord.
Oh,
But my conclusion is talk first, show later. Correct?
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Talk first, show later. Sell your slide, then show slide. Sell
Mm,
next slide, then show slide. Keep on that engagement because then you shift, and this is where you're going to go into like how to not be so reliant on PowerPoints. This is where you're going, okay, you have figured out the biggest thing in life, my friend, and that is that whenever you're saying something using PowerPoint, you are the presentation. You talk about it. You can even go with, if it's very much because you said data paralysis, you can say, hey, now I've been sharing this, but you're eager to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show this it's a very advanced slide. There's a bunch of numbers, but I'm going to give you time to digest this. So take a look at this. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to just see what I just shared with you and just get the full picture. All right. And then you show the slide. All of a sudden, you have people going, oh, it makes sense.
mm,
Those shiny numbers, I understand what they are because he spoke about them previously. Oh, this is good. Ah,
yeah.
okay. And then after 30 seconds, boom, and you take it away and you keep on talking. So now we've seen this, but now we're eager to see, okay, what has client said about this, the changes that we made. So what they have, and then you start talking, talking, talking. You want to see some proof of this? These are the testimonials from last week. Boom. And you show them, and it's beautiful to see everything just come together.
Yeah, you're using like creating a story in their minds. You're
Yeah,
preparing them. You're persuading them.
yeah,
I hope I pronounced that right. But then you use also the PowerPoint to finish with the visual side of things, right?
yes, exactly.
Alex, the last topic that we're going to touch on today,
Yeah,
it's really interesting because I never heard about this, and I want to know if this is something that you created. But if one day we are able to meet in person and we go to a pub and there's a barman there, and
yeah,
we want to drink cocktails,
yeah,
there's going to be in the menu one called Angels and Devils cocktail.
yeah. They're
Can Can
What
you
is
tell
it?
me what
Right?
is it?
What is it? Yeah, I asked David the first time when I heard him saying this, like, what is it? And he goes,
Oh,
it
this
is.
wisdom.
Yeah, it's like no. So here's the thing: an angels and devils cocktail has nothing to do with anything that you drink. It is about what you tell yourself and how you change different mood sets into. You have two different choices. Either you go with the devil's cocktail, which is it's say half of the glass is just cortisol, which is like negative stress, and then you add some testosterone, which is over empowering you sometimes, and then you add a tremendous amount to fill up the top of the glass with adrenaline. So it's a bad combination. So imagine yourself drinking this. So you have stress, you're like a little bit on the edgy side, and you are super like your instincts are triggered that you get like you're angry at everything, and you just want to take yourself out of the situation. Your heart is pounding out of your chest. How do you think that makes you feel? That is that those emotions are the devil's cocktail. So many times you can ask yourself, how many days do you think that you mix yourself a devil's cocktail on a year?
Oof.
Several times, because it's not only when you feel anger or you feel disappointment. It's anxiety, it's stage fright, it's interview fearing, like you're fearing an interview. You're having a conversation with your boss that you're dreading. This is what we mix ourselves so many times, and we didn't chug it down, have a bitter taste, and then we just hope for the best and shoot from the hip. The angel's perspective, the angel's cocktail, is the opposite one. That is when you take a little bit of dopamine, you take a bunch, a pretty hefty amount of serotonin, you take a little sparkle of testosterone, and then you go with endorphins, and then you, like a twist to it, like a squeeze, you add oxytocin. So dopamine makes you motivated. Serotonin makes you feel pride. Testosterone, again, a little bit more risk taking. And then you have endorphins, that puts a smile on your face. And then you finish off with oxytocin, which is known to humanity as the love hormone. But
Mm.
I would rather say it's more of becoming very present in the situation. And imagine you having all of this and you drink this. How do you think that you would react to going into a interview? How do you think you would react to going into your boss talking, if you're having that serious talk, or you're talking to a client that has been very negative in a long time for something that you have done or the company have done? Just imagine mixing those cocktail or that cocktail and drinking that every single day. And that is what the angels and devils cocktail is, that you decide what kind of fuel you want to run on that day. So I
Mm.
thought, as a good almost ending to this episode, would be to give your listeners and the audience a way to mix a beautiful cocktail of an angel's cocktail so they can skip the other one. I don't know, is that something that you would be okay for you?
It would be amazing because I think it gives that clarity for
Yeah.
everyone into heads on what to
Yeah.
do.
Of course. All right. So here's the thing. There are three things that you need to do, and I would like you to embark on this for 25 to 30 days, just to test it. Step number one, you need to create a 5-song playlist on any, yeah, it can be any of the streaming services that you use. So a 5-song playlist. And here is the thing. I want you to select 5 songs that each have a connection to a moment in your life where you want to feel what you want to feel starting that day. So to give you an idea,
Mm.
I have one song, my first song, that creates testosterone. It's from my childhood when I was bullied, and this song saved my life. So this one makes me more risk taking, makes me feel empowered. The second song I have is connected to when I felt I was extremely proud over myself when I accomplished to take my motorcycle license in Scandinavia or in Sweden, specifically because it's super hard. And then I
Mm.
have 3 songs that are just based on endorphins, and these are memories when I went back when my child or my youth, I would say a young adult, when I went down to the Netherlands and I went to a bunch of rave parties, hashtag no drugs, just water, but with my friends and 49,998 other people. When I listen to these 5 songs, they instantaneously take me with my power of association to the moments where I felt this. Meaning that my brain can't separate what's fiction and reality, automatically starts triggering this. Like, yeah, I feel empowered listening to the first song. I feel pride when I listen to the second song. And you know what? It's a good day listening to the other ones
Mm.
that are all creating endorphins because endorphins makes you less critical, not only towards yourself but also towards other people. So now I'm getting high. I'm getting high on hormones. I could never embark on a situation with that because then I wouldn't match the people that I speak to. But the first thing in the morning, it's going to take you roughly 30 minutes to do this. But first thing, find these 5 songs. The first one you already know. And the listeners, you already know also the first song that you have. The second one is going to be a little bit harder. The three next ones are going to be a little bit tougher.
Mm.
But when you find those, I want you to listen to them 25 to 30 days straight, every single morning. Just start off your day with listening to these songs. Just make them embed in your system. Second thing, it's about breathing. So there's a breathing pattern called 7 over 60. It is 7 inhales and 7 exhales within 60 seconds. You can YouTube them, they are out there. And what happens then is that the proof here is that when you use the 7 over 60, 7 inhales and 7 exhale within 60 seconds, it lowers down your heart rate. And when your heart rate is low enough, you're going to limit the opportunity and possibility for you to go into stressful states, i.e., then going into creating cortisol, because cortisol is that stress related hormone that I've been mentioning before.
Yeah.
So now you boost yourself up, then you calm yourself down. Then this is my favorite one. I want you to bring out your phone. And what you do then is I want you to go into your picture, like your picture bank. You can have it online in the cloud. It doesn't
Let
really
me do
matter.
that
But
with you right now.
yeah, so go into your picture bank. And then I want you to find something of someone or something that you love, like
Oh,
unconditional.
okay. I just found one of my dad.
Yep. And then I want you to look at that image for 2 to 3 minutes, like solely just immerse yourself into that image. For instance, myself, I'm using Busse. This is my dog. So I'm using my dog as my go-to. And what happens now is that
Nice.
proven by science, I love this. As soon as I start looking at him, oxytocin is starting to be produced in my bloodstream.
Mm.
Oxytocin is the only substance known to us that lowers and physically removes cortisol. This is that presentness substance that you want to have inside of your bloodstream. So what you do now is you set for 25 to 30 days is that you listen to the 5 songs to boost yourself. You do the breathing pattern for 2 to 3 minutes. You calm yourself. Then you watch that video image of something that you love or someone that you love. And now you become present.
Mm.
Imagine yourself feeling that way because I want you to really reflect over what you feel after you've done these 3 things. You have mixed yourself a beautiful angel's cocktail with a half an hour work. And I can guarantee you want to feel this way the next time you go into your interview, the next time you face your boss, your leader with an idea that you want to post or push. When you have a presentation that is something that of high significance or seriousness, but also when you are just having a good time.
Yeah.
This is without a doubt one of the most effective ways. There are 19 other ways to do it as well to create that angel's cocktail, but these are 3 things that I would give to you and to everybody who's watching this as my go-to place to do,
I think
without a
that,
doubt.
yeah, Alex, there's no best way to end this episode with this 25, 30 days plan when it comes to create a playlist with your 5 favorite songs that makes you feel empowered, proud, and have good memories,
Yep.
breathing techniques, and then also have a picture that brings you to a nice, really good place.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for all of that knowledge that you brought and that you and David has been have been given to the world into this 1 hour special. It's just that there's a lot more that we can easily talk. You literally create a whole program behind it, right? So
Yes. Yeah, we have an entire program that lasts for 12 months that is just
imagine,
short here. So there is so much more. We barely scratched the surface, but
yeah,
thank you for
indeed.
having me on here for this 1 hour special. And yeah, feel free to reach out and if you want to find out more,
Huh.
that would
Let's
be
go
great.
ahead and do it, everyone. Thank you,
Yeah.
Alex. And remember,
Thank you.
keep learning, keep growing, and let's keep improving the world of customer success. Until next time.
Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.